Broken Mare. Deep breath. I never thought I'd actually write this down. Never would I have imagined it. But it's been eating at me, this secret, and maybe typing it out will help. I found your magazine, and when I read the stories I couldn't resist. Or maybe I just need someone, anyone, to know the truth about what happened to me at the Wilson estate. My name, well, let's just call me Rachel. That feels safe. Anyway, I was 20 years old, fresh out of this super strict convent school in Connecticut. My parents, upper class, super Catholic, died tragically at sea coming back from England. Their will and testament was very specific. Upon accidental death, my family's wealth will be held in a trust by the Wilson family, and I was to be transferred to them as their ward until my marriage. Mr. Wilson is a distant cousin of my father, a connection I barely knew existed, way out in his big, creepy estate. They called him Master Wilson. I guess this was a British custom. I arrived feeling rebellious and angry as hell. Why couldn't I just stay in my own home? At school, I'd loved teasing and breaking small rules. Adjusting my stockings just so in chapel, catching the priests looking. Faking illnesses so the young, handsome school doctor would examine me in my undergarments. He would swallow deeply and blush, and it would give me such a thrill. But arriving at the Wilson place? That was different. Massive estate but cold. Ms. Thompson, this ancient, scrawny woman, and Vivian, maybe 20 and ridiculously beautiful with this amazing figure, met me. They were like statues, totally devoted to Master Wilson. They didn't waste time. Straight to this huge, tiled and ornate bathroom. It was the size of a reading room. They stripped me naked. Completely. I mean, I felt so exposed. They poured this awful-smelling powder all over me. They said it was delousing powder. Master Wilson was obsessed with cleanliness. They inspected every inch of my skin, probing, looking for God knows what. Diseases? Then they shaved me. Everywhere except my head, thank goodness, I have long auburn hair. It was humiliating, terrifying, but weirdly, oh God, it was kind of exciting too. The cold air on skin that had never felt it before, their impersonal hands stroking my skin, the scrape of the razor. I was trembling, but not just from fear. Especially when Vivian touched me. Her hands weren't cold, they were different, slower. Later, alone in my room, stark naked in front of the mirror, I examined myself and I looked like a little girl. Smooth, hairless. It felt wrong, forbidden, and that sent another shiver through me, a warm one this time. I mean, how bizarre was that? I didn't see Master Wilson for days. Just the servants. I explored the entire estate feeling like a free prisoner in a gilded cage. One afternoon I went to the stables. I needed air. And there. I saw it. The stable staff were breeding the horses and a huge stallion was mounting a small mare. The stallion's thing, the size. It was massive, throbbing. I couldn't look away. My face burned, but my legs felt weak. Then later, when riding around the stable house, I finally saw him. He had a polo mallet and was riding in some kind of formation with another rider. They were practicing. Master Wilson, he was older, maybe 50s, but God. Tall, ruggedly handsome, broad shoulders straining his tweed jacket, riding boots polished. He moved with this quiet, fierce strength. After my ride, as I was brushing my mare's mane, I saw him again near the paddock, breaking in another stallion. He didn't even glance my way. Just focused on the horse, muscles coiling under his clothes. My heart hammered. That silence, that power, it did something to me. I couldn't stop stealing glances at him. Dinner that night was an event. Ms. Thompson and Vivian bathed me again. That same strange thrill as their hands smoothed soap over my newly bare skin, Vivian especially paying attention, everywhere. Vivian would brush me accidentally in places that sent a jolt through me. When washing my secret place, her fingers would linger and venture deeper into my folds. I looked at her, but she never met my eyes. Was she doing this intentionally? They pampered me, but it felt like preparation. For what? Then they dressed me. Oh, the dress. White silk, this gorgeous, flowing evening gown. But the neckline, so low. It plunged, showing curves I barely knew I had. The fabric clung, sheer in places. Silk pure white with delicate embroidery at the hem. I'd never worn anything so revealing. I felt naked and powerful all at once, my heart pounding as they led me to the dining room. He was already seated. Master Wilson. I curtsied, feeling his eyes on me like a physical touch as Vivian seated me right beside him. He talked about his parents dying, his wife lost in childbirth with their baby, the loneliness. His voice was deep, calm, but underneath, pain. I understood that pain, that emptiness. We connected, right there over roast pheasant. And his eyes, they kept drifting over the low neckline, down my arms, lingering. Not crude, just, assessing. Possessive? I found my face leaning closer, drawn to that quiet intensity. I kept staring at his lips, wondering. I started feeling things. Attraction? Yes. But more, a pull. The next day we rode out, hunting. We were alone together. He tracked a stag, he was magnificent. He motioned for absolute silence. Then he dismounted in an instant, got on his belly, steady as a rock, he aimed his rifle. Fired. The crack echoed. The stag fell. He was so capable. So in control. Back at the house, he showed me how to dress the carcass in the game room. Blood, so much blood. It splattered on his strong forearms, dotted his cheek. The metallic smell, the slick warmth, it should have revolted me. But watching him, his hands sure and strong as he worked the knife, the blood marking him like some primal warrior. God help me, it turned me on. Heat and wetness flooded me, low and insistent. That night, alone in my bed, I touched myself, imagining those strong, bloody hands on my bare skin. I dreamed of him. The first real man in my life, my first. I wanted it to be him. Then he was gone for a week. Business, Ms. Thompson said curtly. I wandered the house like a ghost, sneaking into rooms. His study smelled of leather and pipe smoke. I traced his hunting trophies, fierce animal heads mounted on the walls. I found old photos. He was breathtakingly handsome when young, intense eyes staring out from the past. His wife was young and stunning, what a tragedy. I fell deeper. Touching myself became a nightly ritual, fueled by his imagined touch, his imagined commands. When he returned, dinner felt charged. Electric. He was again polite and charming, enchanting me with his stories. After dinner, several hours later, Miss Thompson charged into my room, angry, face grim. There's a lice outbreak, she announced. Master Wilson was at the doorway, his expression dark. Anger radiated off him, he was blaming me, I know. I was the only outsider. Miss Thompson marched me back to the big bathroom. Stripped me again. Bent me over the cold marble table. Her bony fingers parted my hair, probed my scalp, then lower, over my back, my buttocks, between my legs. Humiliation burned, but so did that traitorous heat. Then I felt it. A presence. He was there. In the doorway, shadows hiding his face, but I knew he was watching. Miss Thompson declared another full shave necessary, to be sure. The razor scraped. Then Vivian bathed me, her soft, young hands washing me intimately, cleaning every fold. I knew she could feel my lubrication down there, and her fingers gave me several soft strokes. All the while, I knew he was watching from the dark. Vivian's touch in my parts, her fingers lingering, this time Vivian's eyes met mine and we looked at each other, acknowledging the unspoken, then the thought of Mr. Wilson's eyes on my naked, hairless body. I was trembling, wet, aching. So ashamed, yet so excited. Next summons came a day later, late at night. My heart tried to escape my chest. Ms. Thompson dressed me meticulously. She said Master Wilson wanted to see me. White satin bouffant nightdress, this time. Baby doll style. Low cut, tiny spaghetti straps barely holding it up. Pure white satin, smooth and cool against my skin. It barely covered my hips. Underneath? Only white lace panties, sheer white stockings held up by a white lace garter belt. I felt like a sacrificial virgin offering, and that wasn't far from the truth. Vivian led me to his private sitting room. He stood by the fireplace, imposing. Inspection, he stated, his voice low. No hello, just that, and I froze. Undress? For him? Here? Now? Ms. Thompson gave me a nudge. I walked to him and reluctantly, oh so reluctantly, my fingers fumbled with the tiny straps. I undressed slowly and the satin nightdress pooled at my feet. I stood there, my breasts exposed to a man for the first time, and only the sheer white lace panties, the garter belt and stockings left. I was totally exposed. Vulnerable. He circled me slowly. His gaze was like fire on my skin. Then he stood behind me. His hands, oh God, his hands. Large and warm, they settled on my bare shoulders. Traced down, then over my breasts, cupping them and caressing them softly. I gasped, but he continued. I was shaking now. His hands inspected the curve of my bottom, covered only by the thin lace. His fingers slid under the waistband of the panties, just slightly, tracing the top of my cleft. I couldn't breathe. Every touch sent jolts through me. He explored the lace garter straps, the tops of the stockings. He touched my newly shaved mound through the panties, pressing lightly. I whimpered. I was on fire, dripping wet, my legs shaking. He took his time, examining, possessing with his touch. Then, silence. He stepped back. Leave, he commanded. Just like that. I stumbled out, my body screaming, my secret place throbbing with an ache so deep it felt like pain and oh so wet. I was going crazy. I needed him. I couldn't sleep that night, my body was so exhilarated and charged. I dreamed that night of him and his lips, his hands on me. Days crawled by after that. The ache didn't fade, it only grew. Then a summons came again. Late night. Ms. Thompson dressed me. Pink this time. A bouffant skirt in soft pink silk, swirling around my thighs. A matching halter top that pushed my breasts up, making them look fuller, the pink silk tight against them. Just pink lace panties, stockings and garter belt. All innocence and vulnerability. Vivian led me back and he was waiting. Same room, but this time he motioned me to approach and I did. He put his hands on me and examined my outfit and it made my head spin. He said, take this off, and for some reason I automatically obeyed. It was like my hands couldn't say no to him. My hands trembled as I removed the halter top, then the skirt. He circled again and he was behind me. His hands returned, firmer now. Tracing the lace, squeezing my breasts, pinching the nipples until I gasped. His hands slid down, over my stomach, into the waistband of the panties, fingers finding my slickness. I moaned, arching back against him without thinking. That's when I felt it. Pressed against my bottom. Hard. Insistent. His hardness. His readiness. The sheer size, the heat of it through his trousers, it made my knees buckle. Then his next command, kneel, he ordered, his voice thick. Reluctance warred with desperate need. Slowly, trembling, I sank to my knees before him. He unfastened his trousers. Freed himself. He was magnificent. Thick, long, straining. The memory of the stallion's large thing flashed back into my mind. I didn't know what he wanted. It was the first time I had ever seen something like this. He cupped his hand over my chin and drew me closer. For some reason my mouth naturally opened, and hesitantly, my face burning, I leaned forward. My first time, was it going to be like this? Then, guided by his hand in my hair, I took him into my mouth. The taste, the heat, the sheer dominance of him filling me, it was overwhelming, degrading, and utterly intoxicating. His thing kept getting larger and larger in my mouth. And the heat, it was so hot but hard. He kept guiding my mouth in and out. I looked up at him and he had his eyes closed. It made me immediately soaking wet as I then knew I was pleasing him. Then he shuddered, his release hot and sudden, depositing a torrent of liquid in my mouth. I had never tasted anything like it before, bitter and astringent. I was repulsed by the flavor, but I didn't want him to see me complain. I never even knew anything came out of a man like that. It was all a shock to my innocent mind. The liquid dripped down my throat and it doused the pink lace. He left me kneeling there, trembling, mouth filled with shame and a strange, fierce excitement. It was the first time I ever experienced something like this. Humiliating, but me being presented in front of the man that I was falling for, it was so exhilarating, me serving him, me pleasing him. My mind was buzzing with a feeling of happiness. The next summons felt inevitable. Ms. Thompson dressed me with extra care. Black lace tonight? Something different. A sleek black satin cocktail dress, low back. Underneath, black lace bra and panties, sheer black stockings and garter belt. When I entered his study, I was in shock when I saw Vivian was waiting next to Mr. Wilson, eyes staring meekly at the floor, dressed similarly stunning in deep red lace and satin. My stomach twisted. Both of us? He looked me over, a predator surveying prey. Inspection, he repeated. Together, we undressed down to our undergarments. Me in black lace, Vivian in red. He circled us both, touching, comparing. Vivian's body was lush, full breasts spilling from her red lace bra, curves ripe. Mine was petite, taut. He seemed pleased by the contrast. Then he pointed to the huge four-poster bed. He commanded, "Show me." Vivian understood instantly as she led me to the bed. Still standing, she turned to me, her eyes dark. She kissed me. Softly at first, then deeper, wetter, her tongue seeking mine. My head was exploding with questions, but I let it happen to me. I had never even kissed a man before, and now I was kissing a woman. Her hands found my breasts through the black lace. I gasped, shocked, but the heat and wetness flared again. Reluctantly, hesitantly, I kissed her back. Her mouth was soft, her body warm against mine. We sank onto the bed, tangled in lace and stockings, exploring each other. Her hands on my breasts, mine on the curve of her hip under the red lace panties. It was strange, forbidden, and incredibly arousing. We kissed and consumed each other passionately, lost in the sensation, the voyeuristic thrill of him watching. Then his voice cut through. Enough. Kneel. Together, Vivian and I knelt before him on the floor. He was already undressed and I could see his rugged, sharp, muscular body. His thick manhood was already fully stiff and was pointing up into the air. He approached Vivian first and she knew what to do. She took him into her mouth and she made it slick. She bobbed and jacked her head from side to side, making Master Wilson groan. I watched intently. His manhood looked especially big in her mouth, stretching out her lips. Then it was my turn and I tried to mimic what Vivian had done. This was total submission, but I don't know how I got here. Slowly I decided not to protest at each step, and now I was doing the most dirtiest thing in the world. I was gushing with wetness as I thought about what was happening to me letting him share me with Vivian and using me like property. The thought gave me such a thrill. Then he stopped my head and lifted me up to my feet. He guided me onto the bed but bent me over the edge face down. Since this was my first time in this situation, I didn't know what was going to happen. Vivian laid face down right next to me. I could feel his finger pull down my panties and they pooled at my ankles. I was shuddering with fear of what was to come. I didn't know what, but I knew it would be something dirty. He used his fingers first, stroking my wetness up and down, spreading the liquid. I started to moan and squirm, but I didn't dare move my body or protest. He inserted his finger and I shrieked with pain, but he was gentle. The more he moved his fingers, the more wetness and the less pain I felt. Then more fingers inside me, stretching me wider. Then something different, at the gates of my petals, something hard and hot. It felt like a ball, pressing against my gates, demanding entrance, slowly, but possessively. My master would not brook any denials. I arched my back at the electricity jolting through me, and I could feel his hands on my hips. He slowly entered me inch by inch, allowing me to screech and bend my body as I adjusted to the thickness. He continued to advance, and he eventually was fully submerged in me, filling me completely. It felt like I was being held up by a pole, legs weak and dangling, and then the motion started. In and out, it filled, then pulled out of me completely. Then entered again. Over and over, and I started to feel some kind of pressure start from my thighs. Then rising towards the center, then directly under my belly, inside of me. He increased the speed of the strokes, my pleasure making me blind, my head spinning. I was seeing white streamers in my eyes, even though they were closed. His speed increased, and his member kept pushing deeper and deeper inside of me, hitting my ceiling in a spot I never knew created pleasure, but it did. The aching was creating such an ache, I could only yell and moan. Then he reached under me and caressed my breasts so gently, brushing my nipples, and that did it. I exploded with a yell so loud, my back arched and waves of pain and pleasure crashed over me, wave after wave. It was surreal, and I felt my head was exploding like a star. Thinking back now, I know this was my first climax. I was breathing so heavily as he stroked his hips in short thrusts in and out of me, milking out the waves of ecstasy. I was spent and dropped the weight of my body into the satin sheets. He exited me slowly and then moved over to Vivian. He started on her now, entering her from behind. Now as I looked back, I could see what was just happening to me happen to Vivian. She was moaning and panting now, her head jacked up and down with pleasure. It was amazing to see. Did I look like this when he was inside me? I marveled at the power, the possession and domination of her body. Master Wilson taking pleasure from her, without hesitation. He completely owned her, and I started to tear up thinking about the beauty of it all. Then he suddenly pulled out of her and grabbed her head and brought her to her knees. Then the strangest thing I had ever seen, she knelt down and opened her mouth wide. I slid off the bed and sat on the rug, leaning against the bed. He stroked his member quickly with vigor, and then he exploded in climax. He directed a stream of white liquid directly into her mouth, shot after shot, straight into her mouth. My thoughts went back to the night he deposited his seed into my own mouth. My eyes were fully wide open in amazement. She seemed to be swallowing everything that came out, one gulp at a time. I was shocked. He slowed and the stream stopped into an ooze that dripped down his tip. She took him into his mouth and started sucking. It looked like milking. He took his thing out of Vivian and stepped over to me and said, "Clean." And so I did, trying to do the same thing Vivian did moments before. The flavor was better this time, even sweeter. I swallowed as well, making sure he knew I was his loyal servant. It felt so good to have his manhood, his power inside of my stomach. I sucked and swallowed until there was no flavor left, and I knew it was finished. With his thing still in my mouth, he cupped my cheek and looked down at me. I looked up at him. His eyes were filled with happiness and approval, like I performed well for him. It made me so valued and satisfied. It was the single most amazing and pleasurable experience of my life. Surrendering to his demands for some reason made me feel more whole than I had ever felt before. The next few days were like a dream. We went riding together, intimate dinners with candles. He took me into the city and pampered me with clothes and new jewelry. I felt like I was being swept up into a life I never knew possible. He introduced me as his ward and I was treated like a princess. It was divine. I was spinning with feelings of love, and in his strong arms I felt so secure. I spent several evenings entertaining Mr. Wilson and falling asleep in his arms. We rode, hunted, and listened to the radio together, and held each other long into the night. It was pure bliss. The final nail in my coffin, my old self being buried away, was the cellar. Ms. Thompson led me down cold stone steps. Vivian was there wearing a leather bodysuit. It smelled of dust and leather. Chains hung from the ceiling. A strange bench stood in the center. Pillories, whips. My blood ran cold. Ms. Thompson dressed me only in lingerie, white lace bra, white lace panties, stockings and garter belt. Then they guided me, firmly, to the bench. Strapped my wrists, my ankles, my legs spread-eagled. Fear, real fear, shot through me. Then Mr. Wilson entered. He stroked my cheek as if to tell me I would be all right. He bent down and gave me a soft kiss. Vivian then produced a small flogger. Ms. Thompson took a leather paddle and said curtly, "For your disobedience, Miss Rachel." My mind raced. What could I have done? I did nothing but submit to Mr. Wilson's every whim. That's when I realized, it wasn't for something I had done, it was to teach me that no matter what, right or wrong, my master has dominion over me, there doesn't need to be a reason. The first strike from the paddle landed on my bottom. It was a sharp sting. I cried out. Reluctance screamed inside me. This was wrong. But the sting, it ignited something because he was sitting on a velvet couch watching me intently. Then I saw him swallow deeply and it gave me an odd satisfaction. Each strike sent waves of heat through me, wetness pooling between my legs. They punished me, alternating strokes, spanking, flogging, while I writhed against the restraints, whimpering, tears streaming, but undeniably aroused. And the whole time there was my master, Mr. Wilson, watching my punishment, my degradation as he stroked the large bulge in his pants. He nodded to the servants. They stopped, then he approached and unstrapped me. Turned me over onto my back on the bench. His eyes burned into mine. He didn't speak. He simply pushed my legs apart, ripped the white lace panties away, throwing them to the side. I was breathing heavily as he pressed his thick head against my entrance. Then he entered me with a thrust, hard, deep, claiming me amidst the implements of my punishment. He was like a possessed demon, furious and unforgiving. He stroked his long hard thing in and out of me without regard for my pain, and there was a lot of it. It felt so carnal, like he couldn't control himself and neither could I. I was his plaything with no control, complete submission. Wetness flowed as I built towards a climax, the shame and domination, consuming my thoughts so fully, I blew up with a bang, shocking me with wave after wave of pleasure. I could feel something coming out of me this time, liquid that spilled over the bench, slicking my insides, making the sounds of his penetration sound like wet slapping. It was a different feeling this time, more inside of me, more behind me. It was so intense my back arched and each muscle in my body tensed, and then I shuddered over and over. He slowed momentarily, looking down at my expulsion, smiling with approval. Then he continued back again, with the intensity, the forcefulness. He was going so fast, I felt like I was going to faint. Then he grunted and exploded inside of me with the force I had never felt before. It was so powerful this time, hitting my insides with thud after thud. He winced in pain, or was it pleasure? The slickness, a different kind, was coating my insides. He slowed, pumping wave after wave of his seed inside me. He calmed and slumped over my mouth to kiss me deeply. The kiss confirming that I did good, that I pleased him, that I was his. Then a moment later, he looked to Vivian and she came over. He pulled out of me slowly and I could feel his seed spilling out. He stepped back and then Vivian bent down to lick up every drop off of my slit. Her tongue, lapping up and down my nub, me tensing with sensation, she ate up and swallowed every last bit until my petals were clean. Vivian then crouched her body over mine to kiss me deeply, giving me a taste of Master Wilson's love. I swirled the flavor in my mouth, loving it now. It was my master's seed and I wanted it inside me in multiple places. It was the most intense, the most submissive experience. The pain of the spanking mixed with the ecstasy of his possession, then the sisterhood I felt with Vivian and the sharing of his seed. I will never forget that night for as long as I live. So, that's my confession. My dirty, shameful, thrilling secret. I'm still here at the Wilson estate. I'm not a ward anymore. I'm part of it. Part of him. Ms. Thompson and Vivian are my sisters in this strange life. And Master Wilson, he's my everything. My world. My purpose. He showed me who I truly am. This hunger, this need to submit, to be possessed, it wasn't rebellion. It was my core and he freed it. And now I understand Vivian's role. I go into town sometimes. I watch. I look for girls. Pretty girls, with a certain look in their eye. A flicker of defiance, maybe, or hidden curiosity. The kind I had. When I find good one, I befriend her slowly. I show her glimpses of the freedom, the intensity one once found. I wear something tempting, maybe a hint of lace peeking out. I talk about possibilities. And when I see that spark, that reluctant fascination, I invite her back to the estate for tea or something more. Master Wilson is always pleased with my recruits. Miss Thompson and Vivian prepare them. Just like they prepared me, and the cycle begins anew. It's shameful, I know. A betrayal of everything I was raised to be. But the thrill, the power in the submission, the ecstasy in the surrender, it's my truth. My secret life. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for the world.